Hey, you guys, and welcome to American Culture. So, today we are going to discuss the top three things that you do in order to experience suffering. Now, most of us have gotten to a happy place in life and we're good here. And I'm not telling you that you're ever going to avoid suffering because it comes by way of pain, loss, and illness. And those things you can't avoid, but that's outside things inflicting on you. I'm talking about how to overcome the mental suffering that we often inflict on ourselves. If we do these three things, you're going to bring suffering. If you don't do these three things, then you'll probably stay peaceful. Number one, if you're not ignorant. Number two, if you're not angry. And number three, if you're not greedy. And we'll get back to why so many people are greedy and they have no idea. First and foremost, we're going to talk about ignorance. Now, we've all had to have those conversations with people that we've hurt before, that we neglected, even the ones with ourselves, where if we had known better, we would have done better. I myself, if I would have known better, I wouldn't have poured into so many different people, hoping that if they liked me, then I would have had a better experience. I would have poured all that energy and resource into myself. I would have made me feel better and me feel good. But again, I went through a childhood where that's what I saw, and I kept grasping at straws for love, and I simply lived that out. Again, as you mature and you grow into who you want to be, you learn better and you become less ignorant. But when you don't, when it's going to inflict some suffering on your life, if you go out into the world thinking, this is who I am, you're miserable, you're unhappy, your relationships don't work out, but you are demanding that this is the person that you are and you're never going to experience change. You're going against the grain of life because that's all we are supposed to do here is grow and evolve. So if you want to be ignorant to the way life works, which involves growing and evolving, you're going to stay in a state of not knowing better. Therefore, you'll never do better. And that's going to lead you to suffering. The second one is anger. A lot of people are angry simply because they feel isolated and targeted. Now, I want you guys to think about the road rager. That person is like, you cut me off, you're trying to do, and that's where their anger comes from because you're not doing this to anybody else. And what happens is we forget to extend kindness. We forget to say, if it was me driving like that, I'd probably have somebody in the car that needed to go to the hospital. Let me pray for those people. So, a lot of times when we become angry for whatever reason, it is simply because you feel like you have been isolated, separated from the bunch, and targeted. It's the same way where if your friends want to go to this bar or club and they don't invite you, you may not even be the bar club type, but you feel isolated and targeted. And before you know it, now you're mad at your friends. Now you're picking on them. Now you're saying that they're this, they're that, the whole nine yards. You're forgetting that if they, I wouldn't invite my friends to go someplace they wouldn't really want to go either. I might mention it just to see if they wanted to, but I probably wouldn't invite them if I knew that they didn't want to go there. And the last and final part that's going to bring you suffering is if you are greedy. Now, here's the thing, you guys. So many of us are greedy and we don't know it because we think that greed involves money. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to do everything that I want for money, but it's not. Greed is when you want what you want to make you comfortable, regardless of the effect that it has on the outside world. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about the common denominator and all these things before I go deeper into greed. The common denominator in your suffering is when you're doing things, thinking things, saying things, and you have no idea the real effect on the outside that is having. Again, it goes back to you're pretty much living in an illusion of a mirror, and what you put out is coming back to you. So if you are doing things that will lead to dysfunction, you're actually going to experience dysfunction. Now, I've told you guys before about how ignorance leads you to doing a whole bunch of stuff where if you knew better, you wouldn't do better. You would do better. And anger leads to a whole bunch of you not extending grace and mercy and blame and doing all this other stuff that creates more upset in the environment. But the key thing is greed, and it affects every single aspect of your life. I want you to think about how many times you've been hungry and you have food in the refrigerator, but what do? You order DoorDash, you do the Uber Eats thing. And so you're not thinking about it at that moment. You're just trying to satisfy yourself, but that ends up hurting your pockets. And so many people are like, they don't, guys, if you saved what, $19 a week, you'd have $1,000 at the end of the year. But so many people go paycheck to paycheck living with absolutely nothing because they keep on trying to satisfy these little urges that they already have the means to satisfy in their own space. They keep on saying, I've got to go out there and I've got to have it. A lot of people are experiencing dysfunction or even separation in key relationships from friends and families because everybody seems to want everybody to do what they want them to do so that they can have a better experience, regardless of what the other person's needs, wants, and desires for. I had to tell a mom the other day she was greedy because she was telling her kids, honor thy mother and thy father. But the honor means to respect, but there's also a way to honor somebody by not putting up with their dishonesty, by not putting up with their problems. The other side of honor is integrity. And perhaps, I told her, perhaps her child is trying to keep the situation intact by remaining separated. Because if you two keep butting heads like this, it's going to create irreparable damage. So sometimes honoring you is not being a part of a situation that creates more damage. You see, but what that mother wanted was the daughter to forget all that and just do what she wanted her to do, which is part of the reason why they don't get along to begin with. Greed is when you want what you want in order to bring you satisfaction, regardless of what the outside, how the outside is going to be affected. Oftentimes, you guys, when we put these three things together, one, two, or three, and put them all together, you create chaos. I had it the other day. My little guy, the former neighbor of mine, whose girlfriend came over and shot him because apparently he gave her an STD. That was on his end, him being ignorant to what actually being with other people and giving somebody an STD might do. He was being unkind. He was being greedy, going out there and thinking that he needed all these extra women when he had one. And she showed up ignorant because she got arrested for that, angry because she felt isolated and targeted. How dare you do this to me? And greedy, she could care less about the way anybody else was going to be traumatized by the actions that she was doing. And of course, chaos and suffering ensued for everyone. So, yeah, you guys, when you put these three things together, when you put greed next to anger, next to ignorance, you're going to experience some type of suffering. The way to overcome this, you guys, is to be peaceful and kind. And what I mean by that is to constantly be the type of person that adds peace and calmness to your environment. And if you can't physically do that, then mentally do that. And kindness is I'm going to extend grace and mercy to anybody that I encounter. I had to tell, I didn't have to, but I was talking to a young nurse who's getting ready to go work in the hospital. Those of you who have been nurses know how challenging that can be. And I told her the best thing that you can do, because you're going to enter into a chaotic field of work, is if you cannot physically bring peace and kindness, do it mentally. It it will help you avoid all sorts of suffering in the long run. So try to be calm, try to be happy, try to look for the good that's in the circumstance, apply love to everything that you do. And remember, your fellow people, they're like you. In all likelihood, most of us, we're not talking to the person in front of us. We're talking based off of the experience we're currently having. So a lot of times the words people are speaking to you don't really have much to do with you and everything to do with them. So yeah, you guys, a lot of us, we're at a point right now where things are shifting. We are in the promised land, but we're doing those checks and balances and seeing just how far we come. And one of them is recognizing that the three major things that made me mentally suffer in life was the fact that I was ignorant, I was angry, and I was greedy. And now you've overcome those things. You don't constantly find yourself going out there needing to, buy food even though you have food in the house. You're not needing everybody to change their ways in order to suit you. You don't feel isolated and targeted. You rely on kindness and seeing how many things that you're surrounded by that you actually resonate with. You're willing to have vulnerable conversations with people that seem, surprise, surprise, other people can relate to, and that cuts out you being angry. And you're not ignorant. You're always on the lookout for something that's going to help you do better in your current situation. And if it's not working out well, you know that it could work out well if you do a little research, gain a little knowledge, and try a little harder. Have a blessed day, you guys.